Exactly. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. First item is introductions. Chris?
Hi, hello.
Might be a good idea if you introduced yourself a little bit, and then we'll go around and introduce ourselves, everybody briefly.
Hi, I'm Chris Purnell, so a new member to the board. I live just north of the Foster Davis property on Van Atta, so that's kind of how we found out about the board and became interested in it.
Good. And I guess I'll start. I'm Jim Tobasso, current chairman of the Land Preservation Advisory Board. Seems like I've been on it forever. Not quite, but quite a while. Retired from MSU, Department of Forestry, 15 years ago. So that's my background. Steve?
Oh, yeah. So I'm introducing myself to Chris.
Yes.
Basically.
And everybody.
Oh, okay. If there's public viewing or something. Yeah, and I know Chris, I know you from the stewardship days. I'm Steve Thomas, and I'm an ecologist. I have lived here in Okemos for about 15 years, and I'm very into the preservation and stewardship of the natural areas. Yeah.
Good, thank you. On my screen, it looks like Jamie would be next, but I'm not sure that the screen means anything.
No.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I am the vice chair for the board, and this is going on to almost my fourth year. I work for MSU FCU as a loan officer and used to work in politics. And after I retired from that, I joined the board to be able to stay involved.
Okay, I guess Mark.
Hi, Chris. Mark Stevens. I've been on the board for quite a while now. I'm the representative liaison to the Park Commission, and I work over at Michigan State in the Department of Fisheries and Wildlife. My focus really there is stewardship and getting kids outdoors through fishing.
Dan?
Yes, Dan Opsimer, Meridian Township trustee and the board liaison to the Land Preservation Advisory Board. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Land Pres Board, Chris.
Man.
Oh, sorry.
My name is Yuman Lee, and this is I think my fifth year. I don't know, lost track. This is starting my second term of being on the Land Preservation Advisory Board. I'm a conservation scientist with Michigan Natural Features Inventory, which is part of MSU Extension. So I'm a zoologist. I do work a lot with rare species, and very interested in natural, nature preservation and conservation, biodiversity conservation.
And you have a meeting you're going to in about an hour, right?
Yeah, I have a meeting at 7, so I'm gonna have to jump off a little bit before then. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Thanks for the warning. All right, time for us to.
Really quick, Chanel is on. Chanel, I don't know if you can talk right now, but if you're able to, you can chime in and introduce yourself, and you can give a little background.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry that I don't have my video on right now. I had a little emergency, but I am back home.
Are you still there, Chanel?
I don't hear her either.
Pardon?
Sorry, Chanel, we couldn't hear your audio. Are you there? Okay, maybe you're getting some spotty reception, so we can come back.
Yeah, let's try coming back to Chanel when we hear her voice. We can ask her to at least introduce herself briefly. Okay, time to approve the agenda. Do we have any additions or subtractions or any comments about the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Or
Okay, it's been moved and supported. I would like to add one thing in old business. I don't see anything written here that the tax package was approved. I don't know whether that has to be in old business or where it should be, or just under communications perhaps. Okay, all in favor of,
We're adding, I apologize, Jim, because I'm taking minutes over here. So we're going to add to communications. And what was that about again?
fact that the tax package was approved.
Oh, the millage. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, should have called it a millage.
Wow, I can't believe I forgot about that. Thank you, yeah.
Okay, that's the only thing I could add to the old business, I think. Okay, all in favor of approving, show of hands. Okay, been approved. The minutes. Any questions about the minutes? Myself, I have only one, and it's a matter probably of Robert's. But it's the second page, item D. It said that resolution was put to the side. Up above, we had a motion that was tabled. I've not known. I can understand what put to the side means, but should it be tabled or is that a different Robert's rule?
So it's item G, is that the renaming
D,
preserve?
item D as in dog.
D. I guess I wasn't sure how to write that. And I listened to our recording again, and we just didn't really say anything on it. We didn't move to table it. We just were like, well, we don't really know. We don't really want to do anything with it. So wasn't really sure to write there, but I can edit it.
there was no motion made, so we didn't formally have to table it. It was technically never taken up, I suppose you could say.
So it doesn't even have to show up in the minutes. Is that correct?
You could argue that. We had discussion on it, but it was not discussion on a motion that was moved and seconded. So any record keeping would be, due diligence over and above.
I agree.
I just wasn't sure what put to the side meant. Okay, anything else in the minutes?
Not for me. Looks good.
I will move to approve the minutes.
Support.
Okay, all in favor? Hand, show of hands. I see a new person in here.
Yes, hello. Hello. Did you want me to restart really quickly, or do we want to continue the meeting?
Is it okay if we ask Chanel just to tell us just a minute or two about yourself and why you're here?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. I really apologize on my part there, but thank you. I did just graduate in the fall from Michigan State with the landscape architecture degree and a minor in horticulture. I was really interested in environmental stewardship and restoration in my minor. So I took courses. I've done work for clients on my own time, learning about invasive species removal And I'm really interested in wetlands and wetland delineation, just all these different topics that I thought would be great to explore serving the public in this board. So thank you again for appointing me, and I'm excited to add my knowledge and for you to also educate me too. So thank you.
Sounds like it should be a good fit.
I hope so.
Okay, we've just approved the minutes. We've had both of our new members introduced. Next is communications. Are there any communications?
I was gonna put this under my staff report.
Okay.
I'm still a little confused on what communications can entail. But I did want to let, the board know that we are, the entire township and all the departments are in a hybrid work from home program now. So we're trying to reduce how many employees are in the buildings at one time for the next 3 weeks. In lieu of our new executive order, we have canceled all our face-to-face events. So the MCC stuff, all my programming is going to be on hold for 3 weeks. And so all the staff is going to be at home at certain points. So I'm only in the office, for example, for 2 days a week. And so we're all still figuring that out. Steven's been a really huge help with that, helping us all get there. But just wanted to pass that on and let everyone know we're going through that right now and setting up to work from home. So.
Okay. I guess we should now move to old business. And the first is Lake Lansing South Reserve. Is there anything new that we've learned in the last month?
Mark, I was going to have you take the lead on that if you want to. Otherwise, I can kind of relay what we went over with our fisheries friends, or I can fill in where needed, or.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, we met with a couple of gentlemen, Joe Noner and Brian, what's his last name, Grunderman, and from the DNR. And Brian is the fish biologist that's in this area. Was excited about seeing the project and hearing what we're thinking about. And then Joe Noner actually just bought a house on Lake Lansing, so it's going to be nice that he's part of that as well, and he's going to be able to see what's going on out there. But we did meet and talk about the possibility of doing some work in that area. We left it as and I don't know if they've gotten back to you at all, Emma, but we left it that we would be meeting on site to take a look at that project here shortly. And they were going to go out on their own, and then we would to take a look at it, and then we would meet as a team either by Zoom, since the whole COVID thing is going crazy again. So, and they have some face-to-face issues as well at the DNR. So they were going to do some things on their own. So looking forward to hearing back from them, but they were both very positive about some thoughts and ideas that we had. And it was exciting to meet with them and to have them show the excitement that they showed.
Good. And Emma, is there anything new on the infractions there at the park at that preserve? Anything new with the putting the boundary line in or anything?
Not so. As far as we kind of talked about different solutions, different ordinance solutions, and fines that we could kind of go after. I personally have not had and Jane and Luann have not had time to sit down all together and talk about that. It's on, our list to just sit down and really take a hard look at that area and what we can do. Really though, what I'm working on is just first getting a letter out about the encroachment. I want to also just try to engage that neighborhood as much as I can and let them know the kind of management we're looking at. So right now that's actively what I'm doing on that. And then Jane and Luann and I are still going to meet to to really look at the ordinance and everything. So still in progress.
Okay. Next item of the wetland mitigation project for Central Meridian Highlands, Uplands.
Yes, that one is really quick. So I was finally able to kind of get Giannis and Derek Perry in discussion, and they have decided to go in a different direction. And so we no longer need to be concerned with Riseburg. And I believe the direction they were looking was the woodlot by the fire department. And don't quote me on that, but so we no longer have to be concerned with Riseburg, and it's not happening there, or it doesn't sound like at any of the preserves in that area. So.
And who controls that particular wetland? Is that part of the mall, or is it part of the township ownership there by the fire department?
Well, some of it is township and some of it is mall. From what I can gather, I don't know. I don't think it's considered parks, and maybe somebody else has some light to shed on this, but I know that the grounds guys, it's not even the parks grounds guys who do upkeep over there. It's our regular grounds crew. So I don't think it's considered part of the parks. I think it's just township land.
Yeah, it's not part of the parks.
Okay.
There was some discussion about moving the dog park there at one time. We looked at that piece of property, and there was just too many constraints as to, you know, how much wetland is in there, and it didn't work very well. And then the fire department came in there, but there's some section that we looked at there, but it's all township owned. There's a little section, like a fringe around the parking lot area, that's owned by the mall. And I think I don't quote me on this. But I think that we did do some mitigation with parks in that area that we own there.
Okay.
I think there was some cut that had to go in there, or some fill or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. Luann would have more information about it, but it is township land. Most of it is.
But at
Yeah,
least
and honestly, Giannis and I had the discussion about, it sounded like Mike Nurse, no. I think Mike Pennington, who was working with us on Tie Heart's wetland, had expressed some concern about an area they were using back there, or planning to use. So I think I'm gonna be going out, and, cause I told him if you can find an area where there's like a lot of buckthorn or phragmites, then maybe that's an area that you wanna focus on instead of something that's, you know, nice and has good species. So yeah, but otherwise we don't have to worry anything about that whole deal. So
good. So that's off of our table.
off our plate.
Okay.
There may be some residual Japanese knotweed there, Emma, in that area, because that is where we found that little cluster near the tree by the fire station.
Yes, yep.
And it came in from somewhere, whether it came in from the trucks that were going there, you know, or whatever. It was a pretty established spot, so there may be some pockets of Japanese knotweed in that area.
Yeah, that would be something good to look out for, because nobody's expressed to me that there's knotweed back there. They just, you know, we've just been treating that one stand you were talking about, but the grounds crew who does work over there went through some training with me this summer, and they know what Japanese knotweed looks like, and they know how to deal with it now. So at least when they're over there, they can have a good eye out for it. So.
Okay, I think that's enough on that one. Item C, the boardwalk in Lake Lansing North. Anything more to report there?
So I just included Co's email in the packet. And so the only update I wanted to just send on to all of you was the email goes over his entire timeline of So when we can expect to really discuss with them the surface material being used and all that. So we don't really have to talk about anything if you don't want to. I just wanted to pass on all of those dates and timelines, and it's all right there in that email. So if anybody has questions, let me know, but otherwise I just wanted to update you on the timeline.
Looks like we're looking at least a year off on most of that.
Yeah, it'll be
Okay.
a while, so.
Next old business, item D, Lake Lansing North burn update.
Yeah, so we just had that meeting on Monday. Steve was sitting in on it. And they approved the burn to go through. You know, we really wanted to have it done this year. And we knew it was going to be a rush, but we were hoping. But, you know, Tim Morgan, all the staff gave us their complete support, and so did the board. But, you know, he feels that last time they did the burn, which, I mean, when I look back at the records, there's not a lot of records on anything. And so they want to really go through everything thoroughly, and they're seeking advice from their lawyer, things like that. So they're going through some more intensive processes this time around. And so it's definitely not going to be until next year. But we got the approval, and I already have a burn bid made up for it. And so we'll be able to get going on it at least soon next year.
Okay, that's enough on that, I think. So then item E, renaming preserved properties. Where do we stand on that? I know I thought we had some people who were going to be looking at that. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I had given out, at the last meeting, I had a list of property names that could be changed, that it would make sense for them to be changed. And so I wanted everyone to take a look at that. I don't know if we want to just, I guess I'd be interested to hear from all of you what process you would like to follow for that. Do we all want to write down ideas and submit them first and then discuss all of them at a meeting? Do we want to just talk it all out? I don't know. I just don't necessarily want to be inefficient if we don't have to be. So I mean, I have ideas for each one. I think we talked about trying to name them after roads. And I know, Jamie, if you have more ideas, since you brought it to our attention, let me know.
Yeah, I think when bringing this up, was gearing more towards trying to name it off of nearby roads, like the name of like a neighborhood, something that connects to it so that it's easier for people to locate and have an understanding of where these places are. I actually had someone come up to me and ask questions about the land preservation after they had voted. Like, what are these? Where are these? And it was really hard to like name and like help them kind of figure out some of them. I think like Ponderosa and Tie Heart were the ones that they were really able to understand. So I think that maybe like that's the way at least I personally was leaning on going, is just trying to find the nearest road that doesn't overlap with another one. And maybe that being our naming convention going forward as well.
Other than the ones that must stay the way they are because of something built in to the purchase agreement.
Jim, can you give me an example of that? Is that like Mandenberg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. And
Yeah, like Davis Foster.
Yeah.
Davis Foster would be that way. I think the one, what's the one on Okemos Road by the bridge?
Central Meridian Uplands.
No.
You mean Nancy?
Oh, the Sambal Preserve?
Sambal, yeah.
Sambal?
Yeah.
That one has tied.
He made a contribution or a partial contribution as long as his name was attached.
Mhm. So if you think about all of the ones that I had on my list, and I mean, honestly, I don't have the file right now for the list on this computer, but the ones that we really think about that are annoying, it's like Central Meridian Uplands or Central Meridian Wetlands, Southwest Uplands, you know, places like Southwest that they're next to Heron Creek, or they have like a drain that runs through them that everybody knows the name of. You know, that's what I was thinking, is either a street name, so it's locational, or if there's like a water body there that we could name it after, something like that, which would be perfect because the big goals for next year are ordering all the signage so that so that people know, because I can't stand it when I'm out at preserves, I'm trying to enforce things and there's no signage. So we really, that's going to be a huge thing that we get to do next year. So if we could just start getting names finalized by, you know, January, I think that would be really cool. We could start ordering signs.
Emma, did you send that out? I know you gave it to us at the meeting. I have a hard copy of it, but did you send that as a document that we could reply to?
Yeah, I don't know if it was actually in the minutes. You're right. I might have just printed out a hard copy. So what I'll do, because I'm in the office tomorrow, is I'll send it out as a document to everyone. And that way we can all look at it, put in our input. And I think then we should all come back to the table with the ideas that we've got
Good idea. Yeah.
written down or typed out. And so I'll send that out tomorrow. I'll write a note to myself.
And can you put in the new map that was created? I know there was some discussion of some of the deer hunting properties or some of the township properties that were huntable, and then there was a new map put out. I
Yeah.
had some folks ask about that, and I actually gave them bad information because it wasn't on the map that we had, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that is.
Yeah,
Jamie
yeah,
was
and
the
I
one
think
by email or by text actually, and you know, it was a little confusing at first. It didn't look good for an incoming park commissioner to not know some of these things, but that's okay. We are unopposed.
and it changed really quick this year. I mean, we added so many properties right at the beginning. And so, yeah, and I think we finally got communications to upload the new map too. So hopefully that will help people. Because you know, a lot really do check it, and I get calls every day. Are there hunters at this property? Or, you know, sometimes I get people who ask me when they're out, and I'm just like, what? So I will definitely send that, and then the list of the preserve names.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Kind of going off that, for next meeting, are we able to get in new business some updated numbers on how the deer management program's been doing this year?
Yeah, I'm going to go over that in my staff report.
Oh, perfect.
You're doing a fabulous job this year.
Okay, I guess we're ready for new business, unless anyone had any other old business. I think I mentioned early that the fact that the tax package was passed, we might just want to add that to the minutes.
It was 73%, wasn't it, or something like that, Jim?
I never saw.
What's that? Did you know, Steve, how it passed?
I believe it was 70 something. It wasn't as successful as the fire millage, but it was more successful than the police millage, which all passed by massive margins.
Yeah,
so.
I think ours was 73%, but that wasn't certified at that time. So I don't know what happened today because they just certified it today.
That's good news.
At least it passed.
Yeah.
Okay, down to new business. I think you're wanting to talk about Davis Foster burning.
Yeah, so in the packet, there's a map of the area that we're looking at. And, you know, Davis Foster has been split into, and I should have included this too in the packet, but it's been split into 4 different burn units that are on a rotation. And I included that in my 10-year stewardship plan, just as a basis, because that's what we've been doing this whole time, is burning them every 4 years. And there's 4 different units. And so, what we've kind of noticed going out there is, well, first we've got a lot of oak regeneration coming in from the sides. And so we're kind of just looking at a different plan for Davis Foster anyway. And what I mean by that is starting to burn larger tracks instead of the 4 units, and also doing it less frequently. We can save money that way. I think the way the management is going and the plant composition is going, I think that's going to be better. But this other area we're looking at is along Van Atta Road. It's to the east of Van Atta, and there's a wetland. There's oaks lining, and I think there's some hickory. Is there hickory, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
And so we want to burn that lane there. And then also the wetland at the end, which does have some invasive Phragmites, but it also has a really incredible diversity of wetland flowers and plants. So we just feel that a burn would help with the Phragmites, that it would help support the plants there for regeneration. So that, and I'm combining that in the prescribed burn bid with Lake Lansing North. So, in doing that, trying to get both of those burns done, I mean, they could happen in a day. We did Lake Lansing North and Central Park South in one day. So that's kind of the hope with that, combining them, and also just so we can get them both contracted at one time.
Mark?
I've got a question about the Phragmites there. I think that Kelsey was talking about there was a native Phragmites or something like that. I've never heard of it before, but what do you think, Steve? Is that something that's there, or is that what they're talking about? That's what she was talking about. And then also, if it is Phragmites, I remember when we were working with Leslie Kuhn, we applied for a permit for getting rid of Phragmites in junction with Ingham County. And I didn't know if we had to do that or add that little section again, or another add that to our list of sections, just to keep that in mind if we do have to apply for permits for that area. And maybe any other site. At that time, Leslie, that's when we had the one across the street from my house. There was some Phragmites, and they had added that to the site. And then there is a real serious Phragmites problem behind the library in Hazlet. It's very serious, and it's there's a lot of the Hazlet snow plows and the trucks and buses and that actually park in there. And it's possible they're picking that up and taking it to other areas. Maybe that's a spot that we could work with Hazlet schools in order to kill that stuff off too. So anyway, that's just the thoughts on the native Phragmite.
Yeah, Mark. So I'm working too with, and that's a great point to bring up. And we just partnered with a company to do a treatment at Northridge Preserve, and also Ted Black. And Ted Black Woods has Phragmites, but we've talked about, I've talked with Jim a lot about how, and Lori Kaufman, about how that's a mix, we believe, of native and invasive. And so the company that we're working with is also aware of that. And so there's definitely a lot of that going on. They can be mixed, and it makes it hard because identification can be difficult. But on that note, I'm working with them to get a permit for the whole township. So we can get a township-wide permit, so that way we don't have to think about, oh, geez, do we have a permit for this area, blah, blah, blah.
Good.
And that way too, it's really great because it gives homeowners an incentive to bring in treatment. So at Northridge, I'm working with one of the homeowners to treat the Phragmites that also goes onto their land from our preserve. And they don't have to pay for the permit then if we have a township-wide thing going on. So we're hoping that we'll cover a few bases with that. And also along the lines of the school, I had Okemos Okemos Earth Club reached out to me, and they have Phragmites, and they were wondering if the Conservation Corps could help out with that. And so I'm talking to Luann about how we can possibly partner with the schools and help them with those issues, and if we can donate time or money, or how we can do that. So that's a great thing to put on the list.
I think it's, I'm glad it's gotten brought up too, because Phragmites is still spreading in Meridian Township, as far as I can tell, and there are pockets that are still small that if we deal with them soon, they're not that hard to deal with. But if we keep waiting, they get very difficult. Some of them on public land and some of them on roadsides or on private land. So it can get a little complicated, but the native, and that's a good question, Mark, also, that there is some native Phragmites that I've seen in the township, and the non-native and the native strain are very, very similar. We call it phenotypically, so the appearance is very, very similar. And sometimes we try to use other clues, but the Phragmites that's on the east side of Van Atta Road at Davis Foster, I did look at it, and Jim Hewitt looked at it, and it looked like at best it's a hybrid, and it's probably the non-native, but it may be hybrid. And if it is hybrid, we still want to get rid of it because it's still not going to behave like the native. And it's also one of the things we look at in a place like that is, so we've got this one sizable patch of it on the east side of the road and none at all on the west side of the road. And so that's an indicator often of that this plant has gotten there recently. It's not like it's been there for 800 years and is all over the place. So it is a pretty well-defined pocket, and it's one that Jim Hewitt already did treat, but I hope the burning will help to make it more sprayable, basically, to help finish it if we can get there.
Steve, you mentioned the west side of Van Atta. Is there any plan for burning over there, Emma?
Yeah, so I think our biggest obstacle over there is we're just trying to figure out the logistics of what a burn would look like. And also I think I'm trying myself to be really tentative because there's a lot of really awesome native plants over there and a lot of diversity. So just kind of being very tentative about that burn. I would like to, we definitely need to figure out how would we create a burn break on that property without being destructive to what's there. And yeah, but I'm glad you brought that up because that's definitely a candidate for burning.
And I can comment a little more on that too. That's a good question, I think. As far as I can tell, the big wetlands in that area, I suspect were what we might call tamarack swamps at one time. So that it's not an evergreen, but that conifer tamarack that loses its leaves might have been prevalent among what we would now also call sedge meadow. And that would be a community that would have burned periodically, and that would help the tamarack reproduce. And there's also there are also some of the wildflowers that are in the edge of that wetland are fairly uncommon, like golden Alexanders and common mountain mint, and they are more or less fire dependent species, or species that occur in fire dependent systems. And this should be able to give them a boost, but I'd like to see how they respond, especially on a smaller section of wetland, which we have east of the road, before taking on anything larger. And also west of the road, as Emma's saying, it's a more difficult setting because the wetland entirely crosses property boundaries all over the place and then runs over to a transmission line. And so I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's a bigger bite to try to take. And I think we do something smaller first. My thinking.
Yeah, I think the wetland we're planning on burning will be a good experiment, like you're saying. And didn't we find native buckthorn at that wetland, we thought?
Yeah,
Which
there's a
I
little.
did not know there was
yeah,
a native
There's a
buckthorn.
lot of, yeah, there's a lot of kind of uncommon plants there. There's fen thistle and this plant called alder-leaved buckthorn, which only gets up to about knee high, but it is a native buckthorn. It's the only place I've ever seen it in this township. And it's a relatively unimpacted wetland area there that's at that Davis Foster Preserve. So it's kind of cool to look at. And in about August to September, if you ever are driving through there, it's really got a beautiful display of wildflowers going. Joe pieweed at the same time with goldenrods and flat-topped aster. It's really pretty.
Yeah,
And
and that
swamp
reminds
aster.
me, I do, sorry, I have to send you some pictures because I did a visit out to a homeowner that's buying a lot very close to Davis Foster, and I thought I found some more of that alderleaf buckthorn, but I couldn't be 100%, but I took pictures, so.
For anyone who was curious, I did a quick Google search and added a link to the chat for the Watershed Council of Northern Michigan has information on how to spot the difference between native and invasive Phragmites with pictures and stuff. Was interesting.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Was this, I thought I remember, and maybe I'm remembering wrong, but was this a site where there were grassland birds nesting?
Yeah.
Like Henslows or something like that, or, okay. So I didn't know, how big were you thinking the burn unit would be now? Were you thinking of making it? I don't know if that was why they did smaller burn units or.
Oh, right. So you're saying how big are we thinking of expanding?
Yeah.
Other ones? I'm not totally sure yet. But I'm just kind of thinking it would be nice to look over the burn plans again, and revamp it. And of course, we would want to keep that species in mind, although it sounds like what I've gathered from Jane and just people who are birding out there and have been for years is that they haven't seen it recently. They have not seen
Yeah, it hasn't been seen in a
you
year or
live
two.
right
Okay.
My husband's a big bird watcher, so yeah, I think there was grasshopper sparrows out there at one time, but maybe it was dick thistles, but it's been a few years since we've seen that kind of thing. And I think that's what they're known for, is that they find a spot they like, they stay for a bit, and then they move on.
Okay. But we would definitely, want to think about the management out there going, in that direction and being really sensitive to any grassland bird species. I mean, even now when we mow out there, the grounds crew, doesn't mow in the springtime or, so we try to already time that. But I think as far as I've looked back, is the burns really take place in the fall out there. And I think they've always just mostly done a fall burn, but.
Thanks.
Okay, I think we're done with that discussion, are we? Okay. Should we move on to staff report?
Well, I didn't know, do we need a motion to approve that or?
To approve what?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we have to, but the burn at Davis Foster. I don't know if I need that approval from all of you.
Well, at this point, we don't know, is it just these yellow lines or this line that you suggested on this map that you sent us?
Yes. Let me make sure.
And you want to do that in the spring?
So right now,
Right now?
no, I'm sorry. We want to do that one when we want to be mindful of, you know, the birds nesting in the spring. So I don't know if that one is, if it's best in the spring. I haven't really, you know, I'm really relying a lot too on who we end up going with as a burn contractor and what they think too. I'd really like to, you know what, or, you know, understand what they think about the timing of the year. But I think I'm also just looking for, you know, if everyone is on the same page of moving forward with planning out a burn there.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with a burn there. I mean, it's part of our, I think we did do a burn a couple of times in the spring, and they did it before April 15th is what I kind of remember, an early date. But that was years and years ago. As I get older, I can't remember things like I used to.
That sounds like a good excuse.
I use it often, Jim. But yeah, I would be in favor of doing something there, especially with the interesting plants that are there where they may get a boost, you know, and we'd be able to see that a little earlier and see if that's something we can help them along.
Yeah, and if we think, you know, we can, of course, right now on the burn bid, I have an end date of, if it happens in the spring, it has to happen before April 7th. And, you know, if we uncover that we need to even have it earlier, or, you know, I would really need to dig in and do some research and make sure we're doing right by all the species out there. But, you know, if we feel that we can't do that safely, then we can just move it to a fall burn and, yeah.
Then I think you're asking if conceptually we'd want a plan put together
Yes.
rather than an approval today of something that we don't know what it is. I would think we'd be okay with putting a plan together. Is that what you suggested, Mark?
Yeah, I see that April, I just looked through my Facebook posts. April 9th, 2014, we did a prescribed burn April 9th. So I don't know if you have record of that, but yeah, an early spring, yeah, we can put a plan together for that. And man, I think you were right about the reason why we did section it off is because we had Henslow sparrows out there and we wanted to leave them, you know, an area where they could be where, you know, it's not impacting that at all. I think that's why we had the quadrants originally.
That's my recollection.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
But I don't know what Audubon recommends or whatever, but that's what, I don't know where we got that idea originally, but I guess we went with it and it was fine.
There's a lot of additional, you know, ecological factors that I think would, you know, could get more complicated to discuss, and without making it confusing. A lot of times people burn prairie remnants in patches because especially they're afraid that the rarest insects that are dependent on those remnant prairies are sensitive to fires sometimes in the short term, and their populations can take a dip shortly after a fire before going up again. And they don't want to burn the entire prairie at once but this is not a prairie remnant. The only remnants here are really the wetlands and the savanna edges. And so we're sort of adhering to that principle by burning just a small part of the wetland in this case. And it's such a fringe of the grassland that I don't think there's an issue of grassland nesting birds at all. But yeah. It's a 4.5 acre section of the entire thing. So it's relatively small in area.
I was just gonna say, living next door, that I'm not sure how many times you guys have burned there, but it's mostly been done in the spring, and there was one time that they did it in the fall. I have really good video of the huge flames from in the fall.
I think the one in the fall is the one that we lost, right? We lost control of, and it burned a little bigger than it should have.
I don't know. It was crazy. I mean, I was watching from my deck. I mean, I could hear it like it was, you know, and I mean, I could see the firefighters. I mean, like the flames would get crazy high, and then the flames would meet, and then they would go out. But I mean, they had to have been like 20 feet high. It was kind of scary.
That was last year. It jumped the burn break and it almost burned both the units that were next to each other.
Got more for our money.
I'm going to answer your question. Typically, if it's just at this phase and you're looking to go out for bids, I don't believe you need a formal motion from this board, but it would be when you actually do the RFP or the bidding process and come back with a recommended vendor, their scope of work, and the bid amount. And really, we would be approving the expenditure. So I don't think you need a formal motion from the body until we get to a dollar amount.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. I'm still learning a lot about the whole board thing, so I appreciate that.
So are we.
Okay, so are we now ready for staff report?
Yes. So, sorry, trying to do the minutes here too. Yeah, so right now, I'll do the deer management report first. That's going really well. Our hunters are working very hard, and we're trying to do a lot of different incentives this year. But we're at 100 and I haven't checked the last half of the afternoon. So right now we're at 129 deer harvested. And our goal for our volunteer team was 150. The most we've ever harvested in a year was around 150, and that was with baiting. So we are just absolutely thrilled. We've donated 2,007 pounds of venison, and it's all to local food banks. So that has been really awesome. A lot of our hunters, right now we're not able to take deer to the processor for donation because they're so overwhelmed from firearm season. They just told us from the 15th to the 30th, we can't take donations. And all of our volunteers are donating to families that they know that could use the meat. And so it's just been really great to have such a sustainable, fresh, and local source of meat that is now circulating around the township. So that's going very well. I don't know if anyone has questions on that before I move on from deer management.
The good thing I want to point out, I'm on the Facebook page where they check in and out, and if they've gotten a deer or whatever. And I think we're at 130 now. Emma, I think they got that 130.
130.
Yeah, one of the hunters said that he took out a doe today. So, but the cool thing that happened this year, I think, which is a really big incentive, is that we brought in a walk-in cooler for these hunters to keep their deer in. They hang it in there or to place it in there, a rack or something. I've not been in it. But everybody's been really excited about that, and they feel comfortable, especially with the warm weather that we had. A lot of times deer hunters won't take a deer if it's really warm because it's just going to spoil and you know, so it's been a real positive thing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. The cooler has made a huge difference this year. And even now, we're not able to take donation deer for them. We're still allowing them to use the cooler to store their own personal deer, which, just like you said, Mark, when it's been warm on these crazy weeks of warm weather, it's been very helpful to them. So
Yeah, the program's a lot cooler than it used to be.
Nice.
There was also the recruitment of new sites as well. So
Yes.
Emma, Luann, and Jane put together, I forget what the acreage limit was, but basically all of the parcels in the township that are 5 or greater in acreage, and sent letters out to them to recruit them to join the program. And I can't help but think that COVID is at least having some impact on our increased numbers as well, because obviously people have more time for recreation. So we've got more sites, and the morale is up, as Mark mentioned. I mean, the morale has been really high. And then, of course, now people have more time on their hands to make the volunteer commitment to the program. Emma, do you want to overview the second phase of the program, though, this year that we'll start after January 1 with our police department?
I think we've been really tentative to unroll that, but I think it's coming up, and we can fill everyone in. So our police department has
board meeting, so it's public. We've talked about it.
Okay, cool.
The board will approve all this, so it's public record.
Good. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we've had a lot of people demand that we bring in sharpshooters, because some people look at our number of 150 and they're like, wow, that's nothing still. I see 100 deer in my yard every night. So we were getting pressure to bring in sharpshooters, and we didn't want to get rid of the volunteer program because that's extremely valuable. I mean, it's invaluable with the connections we make with the community. So we wanted that to stay the same. And sharpshooters can charge, I think, what was like the average, like $600 to $800 a deer. And so we're trying to think of other ways that we could achieve our management goals and be smart about it. So what we've done is our police department is training a very small group of police officers. Ken Plaga, the chief of police, who's also one of our volunteer hunters, is leading up the whole team, and they have been trained by the USDA sharpshooters. Earl, I can't remember his last name, but he has come in and trained them. They're getting all the equipment, the same exact equipment that sharpshooters use. And what we're going to do after January 1st is it's going to be very much on a community response basis, where if there is, let's say you live in a neighborhood, it has a HOA, and you want deer taken out of your backyard. So you can call the police, this specialized team of police who are going to be harvesting deer, just like the sharpshooters, so at nighttime. And they have to have at least 4 neighbors in agreement with the program, and they also have to get approval from their HOA. And once they have that, the police are actually going to go into these specific areas and harvest deer at night, just like a sharpshooter. They are going to be able to bait a very, very small amount that will be cleaned up right after. And so the goal for that program is also 150 deer. So am I missing anything big from that, Dan?
The cumulative 300 goal was set in conjunction with discussions that Luann and Emma and Jane had with the DNR. My understanding with it was that if you go too far, the deer will adapt in their mating patterns, and they'll produce more offspring, and they'll adapt. So that was the DNR's recommendation for the township for this initial effort to increase the call of our deer management program. If you go back, Emma mentioned that the the best year I think was 150 and really low change, but most years it was like 70 or 80. Most years it was half of that. So really it's it's fluctuated wildly year by year. So it was very much volunteer driven, and we weren't really keeping track of metrics and setting hard target goals and trying to meet them based on any scientific data. We were just kind of doing the best we could, and it was more ad hoc. So the plan that Jane and Emma and Luann put together was, to really start using a good metric and a good goal to start with, and then outlining a plan on how you get there.
Yeah, we moved some hunters around this year too and put a lot more pressure on them, and it wasn't always a happy conversation, but it seems like it's worked. So, but if you do, if anybody does have questions about this, a lady called me and had questions about this program with the township police. We really want people, you can always have them call our office. We'll be referring them to the cadet desk. One of the police officers is going to be handling all the calls and questions about this program, because we know there's going to be people who really love it, and we know that there's going to be people who really hate it too. It's just like with our management program. It's just the same. So if you do have people start to ask you about it, just please field them to me and Jane, and we'll make sure they get all the good information and get the number to. I'll send out more contact information as we go for people to contact, just in case you do get questions on it.
What was the time frame for the police program?
So that one is going to be from January 1st to, I believe they said it was like the first week in March, I think.
Couple months.
Yeah, and I don't have and I can send out, and what I'll do is I'll put me and Jane put a whole plan together for this thing, and I'll send it out to all of you so everyone can just take a look and have the proper information.
And the sharpshooter program with the police department was also intended for neighborhoods like Forest Hills or Cornell Woods, because when we've collared some of the deers to track their movements and patterns, the deer that are born into a neighborhood like Cornell Woods or Forest Hills, their radius for travel is not that great. So they'll spend their entire life, or practically their entire life, in the neighborhood. So neighborhoods like that, where there is no adjacent land preserve or open space for our archers to hunt in, the deer management program does effectively nothing. So those residents literally feel no impact. So it's really supposed to target neighborhoods that don't have that open space and are therefore not really benefiting from the volunteer program in that portion.
Yeah, and that's also when we map it out where the car deer collisions happen in very dense numbers. So we're trying to overlay all those maps, all the MSU research, and we're finding these key areas where they're just, and like you said, it's really interesting when we get the tagged deer when they are harvested, because John Trudeau just sends us their whole life story, where they've been. And once they find that spot where they're safe and happy, they don't leave. They don't go more than a quarter mile, sometimes in a 3-year lifespan. So they're really going to be targeting those areas. And yeah, hopefully one of our hunters, his wife hit 3 deer at the same time at Cornell Woods. Totaled her car. Yeah. So, it's something that, we want to look at. And when we brought this to the board, I really enforced, we can't push this too far, because, we need to have a natural balance with the deer, but the numbers they're at, it's not healthy for the herd either. It's not healthy for them or for our preserves, our ecosystems. So we're trying to strike a balance here.
Have we had any reports of CWD at all in the deer that we've harvested so far? Good. Yeah, nope, I haven't heard it at all.
Yeah, and the guys have brought us anything that looks odd, anything that looks weird or off. They've brought them into us, and then we handle them, and we, consult our DNR experts, the Chads we call them.
Chad Stewart, yeah.
Yeah, Chad Stewart and Chad Fidawa, and everything's been good. So we're very happy for that.
And will the sharpshooter meat be donated?
Yes.
Okay, all of that?
All of it will be donated. And I mean, honestly, I'm going to be getting some deer myself. If you're willing to pay a processing fee, if you want venison, let me know and we can hook you up.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm running low, so I need some. Okay, so nobody has any more questions on that? Should we move on to?
For next meeting, can you bring some information about like the deer car fatalities, just to have some numbers on if there's been impact from previous years to now?
Yeah, I'll send you the maps that we have and all that information. I can actually send it out with all of the other stuff I send out too. Okay. If no one else has any questions, I'll move on to the next thing. So we're just talking about stewardship, our stewardship Saturdays, which have been just really successful, and it's been really great to see so many different people out of different ages and everything. So we had a work day at Southwest Uplands. We worked in the back western corner of the property under some nice big oaks and maples, and we removed a lot of honeysuckle. And we've had basically an average of about 15 people per workday, which is perfect. And we have a lot of people who are recurring, so that's great. I've really engaged the neighborhood back there. I think it's Heron Woods over Heron Creek. The neighborhood that butts up to that preserve and at the end of Creekstone Drive, I have engaged about 35 different residents just from that neighborhood who are really interested in being trained into the invasive species strike team. They really want to do a lot of work out there consistently throughout the year. And we had a work day with about 20 people from that neighborhood where I kind of just took them to not necessarily a very valuable spot. It was a lot of people who had never seen an invasive species before, done any work. So I just wanted to set them on something that they couldn't mess up. And so we removed a lot of honeysuckle and autumn olive there, and they're going to continue to come out at least a few times a year to do work days. And then I have some individuals who are working on an individual basis out there on honeysuckle. They've been trained in. So that's really great. I'm glad we're getting a lot of engagement there. We also had another work day at Lake Lansing North, removing more of those thick leaves from the slope there that comes up from the wetland where we have seen a lot of native plants, rare native plants coming up. So we engaged a lot of MSU students that day and cleared those leaves up. I'm trying to think, was there one more? Nope. And so, yeah, so I sent out, and I of course sent it out to all of you as well, but letting my volunteers know that we're going to be on a hiatus from those work days, but they have all been amazing. They've all been very safe. And so I'm looking forward to getting back to those work days. I'm currently putting together an annual report to go over everything with the volunteers, and I'm also getting some merchandise made for the Meridian Conservation Corps to hand out at the end of the year for volunteers. I think so far since September, we've had I think it was 220 volunteer hours. just doing invasive species work. So doing really well, engaging a lot of people in the community, and I'm very happy about that. So that's my report.
Okay. I guess, I don't know if we have, I see one note, 3 chats. I don't know, does that mean there's somebody out there wanting to talk to us?
No, that was me. I put a link to the deer management data set into the chat feature. It starts on page 562 if everyone wants to take a look.
Okay. Other matters? Are there any other matters? I guess I want to add one real kind of brief matter. And I should have brought this up under the minutes. The last item under the last minutes suggested that I was going to be absent on November 11th. And then the next item said that the next meeting was scheduled for the 18th. That sounds like it was moved for me. And I think it indeed was moved because of Veterans Day. Is that not correct?
Yeah, I probably just updated it and did. Yeah, it was not moved due to you, although we love having you as the chair at the meetings, but it was for Veterans Day.
It does kind of look like, because I wasn't going to be there, we moved it to today. And you might want to just correct that.
Yep.
Just so that it's not all around me. Okay, anything else? We have the next meeting is December 9, same time, same station, I presume. Although we're locked down for 3 weeks, I would guess that it'll be longer.
Yeah.
So we'll assume this will be another Zoom meeting. And I want to welcome our 2 new people, Chris and Chanel, and see everybody back here on the 9th, I presume.
Mark, do you have a question?
Yeah, I've got a quick question. With the last storm that we had with all these winds, have you seen a lot of trees down or had any complaints about trees down on our properties? People walking through. I noticed that.
Oh yeah.
There was somebody back in Hillbrook here. It's a parks thing, but I just wondered if there were some large trees. The other thing is if we do have some really large, there's an oak that's back here in Hillbrook that I think is worth a lot of money. And it's, there's 200, 400 inches of oak 3 feet around that probably could be used. And I don't know if we have anybody that we could get some money for something and come in and take care of that. I don't know if that's a possibility, but it fell down last fall. And so it's just been sitting on the ground, above the ground.
You're talking about, yeah. Is it right at the entrance, kind of?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, but I didn't know if there's other trees that are like that, and what are.
I think that's an interesting, and of course we're always really big on keeping a lot of down woody debris too, just for, but I wonder about that. I will ask if we can do something like that, because I know when I worked for Ingham County Parks, they would come in and pay to take out certain trees, and yeah, so
if that was down, I thought that might be something.
Right.
But Dan Brown from MSU has that portable sawmill. I think somebody was talking to him, maybe Katie, about replacing our wooden planks in our village with some trees. And that might be a way to get Dan Brown out here. He's been chomping at the bit to do a public service kind of thing. And I think he charges $1 per board foot for whatever he's making, and rough sawn whatever. And at the village, I think that that maybe this tree, or I don't know, this tree's probably worth more than making it into wooden planks. But yeah, well, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Jim.
Yeah, I think one thing we have to be concerned of on the land preserves, on the parks, it's one thing. Having been on the MSU land preserve board, Baker Woods and some of our other nice woods, because they were in a high category preserve. We couldn't do a thing.
Yeah.
Beautiful cherries went down, and we had to just let them stay there and rot. It broke my heart that we couldn't at least take the top, take the main stem and do something with it, just like you're talking. But now I think in the parks, you might not have that same restriction.
Yes, that's true. So on land preserves, like we're only allowed to clear anything from the trail, and everything else as far to as my knowledge goes, we're not allowed to touch anything outside of that. But like you're saying, parks, I think, is a totally different story. The only thing I would be concerned about is in that area, just what kind of equipment is coming in to do that, and just making sure it doesn't tear up too much. I mean, Hillbrook's seen a lot of that this year, though. But yeah,
I could be easily persuaded to try to get authorization to take a beautiful stem of oak or cherry, just the stem, but I don't know that we might change the meeting because of me, but I'm not sure that we can sell lumber because of me.
Well, this oak is beautiful. It just brought it to my attention. I've been walking by it every day and saying, it's a shame to just let it rot like that. It's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful tree.
Well, you say it's been there for a year or two?
About a year. I think last fall is when it fell.
Yeah, might already be damaged.
It's above the ground, though. Most of it's above, the stem is above the ground. There's space between the ground and the tops.
Yeah.
I would worry about the optics of potentially selling it, but what if we were able to recover it and use it for a project like the bird watching platform at Davis Foster?
Yeah.
Well, that's the kind of thought that I had, is that, we wouldn't really sell it, but we could use it for something, and then have that saw, what Dan Brown used, a partnership, and he likes to get people out and show them, different types of wood and how to cut and all of that stuff. So he's a pretty good guy. Yeah.
I think we could bend it for that.
Yeah.
no, I think that would be cool. I mean, it could be an educational opportunity as well as getting the community out to learn about that. And are you talking about the plank road, Mark?
Yeah, the plank road.
Yeah.
They're trying to redo that because people are falling through it. People who wear high heels on that. I don't know why, but they're falling through and twisting ankles, and there's some holes. So
that's why they didn't have high heels.
We've got a lot of ash that's down that would be perfect for that. Some rough sawn ash or something like that in there. But
we got a lot of calls this week about why in the heck we have so much dead ash and why we keep it around. And, part of it is because it's on a land preserve but I've had a lot of people ask if we can remove some of the ash. And, but yeah, after big windstorms like that, I mean, I was on the phone probably for 3/4 of the day yesterday.
I was wondering.
So yeah, the crew's really busy right now. If you are seeing trees down, of course, call our office and we'll put a work order in, but be patient because we're at a half crew because of the hybrid work at home program. And so they're working really hard, but it's going to take a minute to get everything.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move to adjourn.
Or
Yep, moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Hands?
Who seconded that?
that was me.
Okay.
And
All right.
okay,
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Everyone. Chanel, I'll be in touch with you to get you all your information, okay?
Have a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, everybody, happy holidays. Stay
Everybody.
safe. Take care.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Chanel.
welcome.
Nice to meet you, ladies.
Thank you. Nice to meet everybody.
Bye.
All right, thanks, Stephen.
You're all set, Emma?
Yep, we're all set.
Have a great night. I'm going to end the recording. If you need a copy of it, let me know.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good night.
Have a good one.